Hello and welcome to another Smaulgld live stream. Tonight we're going to be talking about what's up with gold and silver sales at the US and Perth mints. I used to do a monthly update of the US mint gold and silver sales as well as the Perth mint, but over the last 6 months the sales have almost become non-existent, so I stopped covering them. I also did the same when the People's Bank of China stopped reporting monthly updates to its gold reserve, so I stopped doing a monthly report on that as well. The gold and silver sales have picked up a bit at the US Mint, not so much at the Perth Mint. We'll go through those numbers a little later on as people join. Let's just go through what happened during the day. Well, it was a rebound period today for gold and silver. Gold and silver both got over their psychological levels of $16. Silver closed just over $16, and gold closed at over $12.50 at $12.54. Moving over to the cryptos, the cryptocurrencies were also up. They hit some recent week highs. I think Bitcoin was almost at 6,700. Litecoin got to about 88. They both fell back. Ethereum also started closing in on 500. So it was a big day for the cryptos, big day the last couple of days. We'll have to see if that rally can be sustained. Also today, late breaking news during the day, there was a Senate Intelligence Committee bipartisan initial findings, and they found that the committee believes that the Russians were involved in interfering with the election. Putin ordered it, and so their conclusions are that Putin was involved and that there was Russian interference, and also they wanted to sow chaos and help Trump's election chances. None of this is new. The Mueller campaign has already come up with that, a lot of the information. It's just that they're confirming that this is what they're seeing as well. And they haven't shown any collusion with the Russian campaign, with the Trump campaign with the Russians. But of course, this is adding fuel to the fire that there is smoke and therefore there is fire. And if Russia did this, it's only one step removed away from showing that the Trump campaign was involved as well. Interesting, they chose to release this. I'm not sure it's bombshell anyway, but they like to release this kind of stuff just before long holiday weekends, before holidays, so that it's not in the news cycle. Now, the Republicans probably did this. There's a bipartisan report, but the Republicans do indeed control the Senate. All right, now let's take a look. Oh, by the way, today I recorded a very good interview with Paul DeMarco, and that interview is now up, and you can check that out on YouTube. You can also check it out on BitChute. The other thing is tomorrow I'm going to be interviewing Keith Weiner, I'm not sure how he pronounced his name, but he has done some work on gold bonds, and he worked with Nevada. And we talked about Nevada the other day when we were talking about the Pittman Act and the silver confiscation and the mining of silver in Nevada. Well, Nevada is still a mining state. And Keith has worked to help pass legislation that would allow the state and the miners in that country to issue gold bonds. So we're going to get the full lowdown on that tomorrow in an exclusive interview. So I'll have it up probably after we talk, probably a couple hours afterwards. So I'm scheduled to talk to him tomorrow, sometime early afternoon. So by tomorrow night, after you've seen your fireworks, you should be able to come home and check out another Smaulgld subscriber sound-off interview. But for tonight, you can check out the one with Paul Joseph DeMarco. And that one, he talks about China. It's a very interesting. He had spent time in China, and so I asked him a series of questions about what the gold situation is in China, what the Chinese people that he knew, that he ran across, how do they view gold, what type of gold do they buy, are they as gung-ho on gold as the Westerners or the gold community here say that they are. So Carl Joseph DeMarco. Be sure to check out that interview as soon as you're done here. All right, well, let's check out now what we have on the U.S. Mint and Perth Mint sales. Now, before we start, just keep in mind that these are retail sales. They never have, even when they were big on the gold side, never really made up a good chunk of the gold and silver sales in total. However, the silver sales at one point from 2011 to about 2015, early first quarter 2016, were becoming a significant percentage of overall silver demand. So back in 2005, if you took all of the American Silver Eagles, the Canadian Maple Leafs, Australian Philharmonics, whatever silver coins, and then privately minted rounds, they amounted to about 5% of overall silver demand. Wasn't that big of a deal. By 2015, however, the Canadian Mint had gone from, in 10-year period, from selling about 680,000 maples to almost 40 million. The U.S. Mint went from selling 5-10 million up to 47 million in 2015. We started to see big numbers. And in my 2016 silver report, which covered 2015, I had shown that silver coin round bar investment had topped almost 23%. And that was significant because if you take investment demand up there, you're now competing for the slice of the pie for industrial demand and jewelry and silverware demand. And then we saw an immediate pullback almost starting in mid-2016. So if we look at the silver sales in 2015, they were at 47 million. And that was a record. And in 2016, they dropped to 37.7 million. Now that's a little bit, it doesn't sound that bad from 47 to 37 million. But it is a big deal because by April and May of 2016, they were on record to sell about 60 to 70 million. They were really selling a lot. And then sales fell off the table for the U.S. Mint and then also around the globe. Also, and then in 2017, American Silver Eagle sales dropped about 52% from the 37 million and went all the way down to about just shy over 18 million. This year, so you went from 47 million to 37 million to 18 million, and this year, American Eagle sales are about 48% year to date through June. So it's possible that the U.S. Mint might not even sell 10 million Silver Eagles this year. I don't know what the rationale is. I know that, well, I give you some reasons. One of the things I did, I tracked the volatility of the price of silver in the years that there were big sales. And one of the things that was interesting was the wide range in prices. So in 2015, you had a big drop. I think at one point were close to 20 and the price went down to 14. So silver buyers on the retail level like to buy when they see movement in silver. I guess you get those emails from AppMex and they say silver on the move. People, when the price of silver drops rapidly, people want to get in. They want to catch the bottom. And when price is rising, they're worried about missing out on a rally. The last 2 years especially have seen, since we hit that peak Brexit period in 2016, the silver prices have been pretty much in a range. So this year, the entire year, other than that little drop into 15, the prices have been between $16 and $17. You're not seeing a big swing up or down. So that's one of the reasons. The other reason is I think people had bought into silver was set to launch, set to skyrocket, didn't happen, so they're less apt to buy on these. They're less apt to buy on these dips, and so I think that the silver sales have dipped for that reason. The price has gone down. It's been disappointing. Also, what's hurt silver sales has been the ETFs. People buy ETFs. People buy gold money. They're not taking delivery of these bullion products the way they once were. And then, of course, there's the cryptos that are taking some of the sales away from. So let's look at the silver sales this year at the U.S. Mint. So the year started out okay. They normally sell 5, 6, 7 million the last 6, 7 years in the first month. This year it was only 3.2 million, and then it kind of fell down to less than a million in February, less than a million in March, both about 900,000 ounces, 1,000 ounces or 1,000 coins. So they had 3 months in a row, February, March, and April, where they sold under a million, which was a first for many years. They usually almost always sold over a million, and generally 2 and 3 million and 4 million American Silver Eagles each month. And now in 2018, they're selling under a million. And then in May, it dropped to 380,000, the lowest May since 2005. And then in June, we moved up just a bit to 435. So the silver sales have really taken a beating and really fallen down. Canadian Mint, same story across the board. Perth Mint, not as bad. Perth Mint, as you know, peaked in 2015 with the launch of the Australian kangaroo bullion coin. They sold 3.6 million that month in September 2015. And then they pretty much sold 1 million ounces of silver each and every month since then. And that carried on into 2016, parts of 2017. And recently, they were still holding up. Just that last month, however, in June, they only sold 229,000 ounces. What I'm seeing now looks like silver and gold both fell off the table very dramatically. What I've seen the last 2 months is, and this could be a thesis going forward, gold sales picking up. And my theory has always been that silver has to follow gold. Silver doesn't break out on its own either in sales or price until gold gets a significant head of steam. Now, the last 2 months for gold, American Gold Eagles, remember these numbers are insignificant demand numbers. They're just indications of retail interest. But the last 2 months, the gold sales have picked up to semi-respectable levels. So in April, March, and February of this year, the 1 ounce American Gold Eagle coin sold less than 5,000 ounces. In fact, in March of 2018, they only sold 2,500 1 ounce American Gold Eagles. It's almost not selling anything. So they picked up a bit, but they're still way, way below where they were a couple of years ago. But the last 2 months are promising because year over year and month over month, it's the first time they've shown growth in a long time. So in May of 2017, they only sold 11,000. May this year, they sold 18.5 thousand. And then in June last year, they only sold 4,000, but they sold 21.5 thousand this June. So even though they've outperformed May and June this year versus last year, year over year, though, they are still down. Through the first 5 months, 6 months of 2018, they've only sold 87,500, and that's down from 141,000 sold in the first 6 months of 2017. So both gold and silver sales down at the U.S. Mint and also down at the Perth Mint. And that's it on the report there. As you can see, there's not much there to tell you other than that the sales are down. Now, you can buy gold and silver, and many of you used to do so through the Smaulgld site, through the links on the site, through the links below the BitChute, below the YouTube, the affiliate links from Golden Eagle Coin, from SD Bullion, from Money Metals Exchange. You can compare pricing and shipping, and people used to do that. And the sales from the Smaulgld website through those affiliate links fell off precisely at the same time as the U.S. Mint sales fell off. So no coincidence there. And Smaulgld used to get, I used to get a small commission on those sales, and it was a good way to support the site, and people got their medals. But that has basically dried up. There hasn't really been a pickup in that, even though we've seen a slight pickup in the gold sales, but we've not seen that yet. on the silver side. All right, let's see who we've got with us tonight. We've got a few people here. I haven't checked the thing. All right, Hubzilla. Off topic, what is your opinion of the R1 deal? I have no opinion. I don't know what it is. Gus the Broken. Hey, Lewis and friends. Gus the Broken. We have to give you a lot of credit for showing up every night from the Netherlands. By the way, I saw today that Switzerland is going to play Sweden, and I know there's a lot of Americans who interchangeably confuse them when they try to show off their knowledge of Europe. They'll say, yeah, you know, the Swedes, they know how to do things over there. Switzerland's really got a great... it's funny how they use them interchangeably. They probably think they're playing each other. Hubzilla, many reasons, no return on investment, price suppression on COMEX, people can't afford to buy, stock market and crypto alternatives, any others. Yep, they're all there, but you know, a lot of those reasons are always there. I guess, I don't know if people are any poorer now than they were in 2015 when they sold a record amount. There was no return back then. Prices were falling, had been falling since 2011. The price suppression in COMEX was well known. I guess it's just more known now, maybe. I actually think it's the lack of volatility. I think you make those sales when the prices are going up rapidly or falling rapidly. People like to think they're getting a bargain when they're falling, and they like to think they're catching a bid when they're rising. And if you take a look at a long-term silver chart, in the last 3 years, just flat, 16, 18, so he's a little spikes, but not very much. So we'll see. Now, Matty D says, Canadian Mint seems to be offering a wider range of products, colorized, etc. They always have. I think the U.S. Mint it's pretty lame for the world's largest mint. They produce one bullion coin for silver, and they do produce those America the Beautiful 5-ounce coins, which I think are nice. And they only produce like 5 of those different designs a year, the big quarters. And that's basically it on the silver side. And they do the same, I guess they do those proof sets or whatever they are. On the gold side, it's the same thing. They only do the American Gold Eagle, 22 karat. They do make a 10th, quarter, and a half ounce, plus an ounce. And since 2006, they started making the Buffalo, which is a 24 karat gold coin. But they don't make smaller sizes in those. Only 1 year, in 2008, they made the 10th, quarter, and half ounce size of those, plus the 1 ounce size. And then when the financial crisis hit, they just basically stopped making the Buffalo. You know, I'd like to get Edmund Moy on. He was the director of the U.S. Mint at the time, and he made that decision to stop making the Buffalo because the Buffalo was not required to be minted, and they were running out of gold and silver because of the crisis, and people were buying gold and silver, and so they stopped minting the gold Buffalo to try to direct resources to minting the American Gold Eagle. All right. Well, and the other thing with the Canadian Mint is they come up with these series, wildlife, whatever they have, the birds of prey. I remember I used to sell them on the site. But I've taken down a lot of that stuff because it just takes up space on the site and no one's buying it. I do have options to buy the Canadian Mint, I think, in the Chinese pandas and the Austrian Philharmonics and the Mexican Libertad, but no one buys them, so I just have pictures up. Pad, gold is now tied to the SDR 900-1 gold standard. Hubzilla, is fear of inability to easily redeem for fiat when need to purchase items any factor? Fear of taxes? Well, it could be, but that's nothing new. It's not like you can just discover that. I mean, an individual can discover that. They could have bought monster boxes and then they realize, how am I going to get rid of these things? And they have to go and sell them and get cash and fill out forms, whatever you have to do for the taxes. But that's nothing new. I mean, they didn't create a rule that says that has to happen. That might make individuals, they might get their awakening, but I don't think that's nothing new. That existed in 2015 too. Steve St. Angelo made an interesting observation of temporary 1-to-1 silver gold ratio in pre-war Germany. There's very few moments. I mean, there was one we talked about on this show when silver became valuable because A lot of gold came into the East Coast from the gold rush in 1849. But when people try to put silver on the same level as gold, 99.99% of the time in history, it's not even close. Last 200 years hasn't been close. Only once for about 3 days was the ratio even 16-1. That was at the height of the Hunts brothers. Even in the 2011 period, when silver went to $50 an ounce, the ratio was 32, 33. People who tout the ratio, I said James Turk doing it again, they all tout it. Keith Neumeyer, based on relative rarity, they really convinced a lot of people that somehow that's inevitable. Just look at the history. It's not even close. It hasn't even happened in 200 years. There is no natural ratio. By the way, when they fixed the ratio at 16-1, that was political pressure. That was the Democrats forcing a bimetallic standard and forcing it to be there. Gold has always been the solid, more desired metal, not just for monetary purposes, but even for jewelry. Silver's nice looking. I'm not against any. I mean, I'm just making a general point. You buy a gold wedding ring. You don't buy a silver wedding ring. Someone might, but the gold is the gold standard. It's not the silver standard. I'm listening to President Trump deliver remarks at the Salute to Service dinner at the moment as well. Well, that is blasphemy. You've got high quality content here, and you're listening to the President of the United States. I don't know, Gus. You should be focused on your Smaulgld. By the way, the Smaulgld mugs will arrive, and I'm going to be selling those, but the nice looking ones, the ones with the red, and I don't have a picture up right now, but I think I'm only going to be able to sell those, whatever I have. I ordered like a small amount of those. I think once they're gone, I'm not going to do it again because of this tax nonsense situation. I'm probably going to have to sell stuff through a drop site, whereas I'm not going to take delivery of them and then ship them off from the post office myself. I'm going to have to use like what Salivate Metal does, because then they arrange to take care of all the taxes. I'm not going to collect tax for 50 states and then fill out forms and then send them the $2 or 18 cents a mug or whatever it is. It's not worth the time. So I'll probably do all of this through a drop ship method where you order it directly from the manufacturer and they will ship you your Smaulgld products. All right. Database DNA. If same government controls the regulator for COMEX, also controls the statistics for Eagle sales, how sure should we be the numbers are legit? There's no reason for them to make up. There's no reason for them to make up the numbers on the American Silver Eagles, the American Gold Eagles. Talk to any, and I do, the dealers. They're not selling. The numbers are legit. No one's buying them from my site. No one's buying them from the dealers. The sales are down. You know what they are selling? They're not selling the newly minted 2018. There is a fairly robust market, and SD Bullion will tell you this, or James Henry Anderson, I think, has mentioned this. They're selling the backdated ones. The reason they're selling the backdated ones, let me tell you how the Silver Eagles work. The authorized purchasers get charged $2 per coin, and most of the over spot price of silver for each Silver Eagle. And then they have to mark them up and to make some money. And most of your online dealers, other than APMEX, are not authorized purchasers. They're companies you never heard of. And then you might have, but I'm not going to go into that. I've written an article on this. But what I want to point out is that the authorized purchasers then sell the American Silver Eagles that they pay $2 over spot per coin. And then they'll sell them to, let's say, SD Bullion for like $205, $210. And then SD Bullion will try to sell them to you for $215 over spot, $2.25, whatever it is. But what's happened in the market is, since there's not a demand for the new coins, a lot of people are selling their older Silver Eagles. And of course, the dealers aren't going to pay them spot price for them. They're going to pay them something close to spot. So what SD Bullion and other bullion dealers can do is they can buy a lot of the older Silver Eagles and then charge you something like only 5-10 cents over spot, or even less. I'm not 5 or 10 cents over spot. I mean, instead of $2.25 over spot for a new coin, they might only charge you $1.79 over spot, because they might have only paid spot to the person who sold them the coins, or some spot plus a quarter, or something like that. So those coins are selling because they're a bargain. And if people take the view, what's the difference between a 2015, 16, or 17, or an 18? If there isn't any, why would I pay $2.25, $2.35 for a 2018 when I can get a 2016 and only $1.79 over spot? So there is that sale, those sales going on, but I don't think they're not making up these numbers, because that's why the secondary market in the older coins is doing well, because they're not selling the new coins. And any dealer will tell you that they're not selling a lot of the new coins. I'm not that Smaulgld is not indicative, but it's large enough. I mean, I used to do a few sales a week, and now I don't do any. So the fact that I'm not selling any coins is not dispositive, but then you talk to the dealers, and they're not selling any. Also, I did look at the SEC filing of A-Mark, and their sales are way down too, and they are an authorized purchaser. So the numbers are legit. I'm not defending that the government numbers are always legit, but they do square with too many data points. AMAX, which is an authorized purchaser, my discussions with other bullion dealers and my own sales, the sales are not there. And the number doesn't affect sentiment, actually. No one pays attention to these numbers. In fact, I've stopped even reporting on them, because one of the things about Smaulgld, this podcast was the one with the fewest visitors. I used to spend a lot of time making the monthly charts and doing a video on each month, and I get 80, 90, 110 visits. But if you put something like Shock the World, Game Change Your Game, you get more visits. So people aren't interested in the numbers anyway. So I don't buy into any of that database DNA. They're not trying to control sentiment by releasing bad numbers. They're just releasing bad numbers because they're bad numbers and no one cares anyway. And as I said, I've checked with others, companies that are in the distribution line in my own site, and they're just not selling. Custom broken. I commit my own coins, gold or silver, or even other metals. Should I call them Gus coins? Well, actually, in English, you can't call them Gus coins, because coin has a special meaning. It means a silver product that is minted by a sovereign government. So you can make Gus rounds. And sure, you could. And you could charge probably less than the $2 that the U.S. Mint charges authorized person. It's amazing that the U.S. Mint can charge $2. And you know why they charge $2? Because they have to pay the Sunshine Mint and two other mints, because they don't even make the planchets themselves at the U.S. Mint. They buy the silver blanks from private mints, and then they stamp the eagle on it. So they probably have to pay them $1, and then they need to make $1 themselves. Probably won't be legal tender. Unless you form your own country, Gus. DNA, you should include the what the dealers are selling topic at the start of each show with price update. Interesting info, I think. The dealers, you can do that on the site. I mean, I don't have a program that shows you the pricing of the 3 affiliates that I have links on the site, but you can click on them and very quickly see. They're all pretty much close. They all pretty much have the same products. They all pretty much have the same delivery. Sometimes they run specials. Some have free shipping, depending on how much you buy. But they're all good, and they're not the ones that, like Northwest Territorial Mint and the Bullion Direct, the ones went out of business because they weren't shipping. That's a red flag. When you make an order, unless you're ordering something that says, like, you're doing a pre-order on a America the Beautiful coin, well, it makes sense that if you pay them now and you're not going to get it for a month or two. But when you make a regular order and they don't send it to you, that's a red flag. And we haven't heard that from the companies that are on the site. What they're doing in that case is they're floating your money and hoping they can make money elsewhere. And that's what happened to those other companies. They were sending some of their shipments out, others they weren't. That's why you should never make an order that's big, because when you make a big order, it's possible, even a reputable company, they just go out of business. And then you become a bankruptcy creditor. So you should never send them a large amount of money. Any company, buy it in, I guess you split your order up. But that's my advice. I had to make a few copies for collectors and museums. One says Gusta Broken. The original was worth $1 million. Wow, it's $1 million at the time. The only one in the world. International Museum in the Netherlands. Which one is that? The Rijksmuseum? The one in Amsterdam? I haven't been there in years. I used to travel around the Netherlands and go to the different art galleries there. Carl Joseph DeMarco, who we mentioned at the top of the show, has done an interview with us, with me, and check that out. China Weird. Very interesting interview. Son a la casa means he's at his house. Man, mom and wife love the sound off. Thanks. Well, of course, they like hearing. Your wife likes hearing from the man in her life, and your mother as well. Channel your inner bull pony, Matt D. I need to have some turn dates, and I need to think about Shemitah. All right, Hubzilla. Any history of Northwest Territorial Mint getting caught with counterfeits? I don't think that was their problem. In fact, I don't think that was the problem of any of the major online bullion dealers. Counterfeiting, you get caught counterfeiting, you're pretty much done forever. It's not like you can hide that you did that. It's not like you had a bad order or, you know, what they were doing, these companies. Well, that guy, I think what happened to him was he had a personal suit filed against him, and I think he lost, and he was on the hook for like $4 million. So he was probably using the company to help finance his personal stuff. But that's what happens with the companies. They take your money and then they don't send you your products. But what they do is they don't do it to everybody. So it could look like, oh, there's just a guy complaining and get his order. Oh yeah, there's another guy there. I mean, if you don't send you the order to maybe like 100 people, not all of them are going to go online with it. Maybe 5 or 10 might out of the 100. And then if the other 300 people you sent it out to, they get away with it because they're not here. But if somebody has a counterfeit claim, people don't just, it's just some counterfeit. It's different. Especially like if you heard that somebody's not getting the order and you got yours, you just dust it off. But if somebody says they got a counterfeit and then you look at yours and you start saying, is this counterfeit or not? And you get nervous and then you just don't use them. So I don't think they had a counterfeiting problem. They might have, but I didn't hear anything of that. PAD, SDR gold ratio 900 to 1 ounce, source of info, the Daily Economist. Yeah, all this stuff, I don't trust any of it. I don't know what that means. SDR to gold ratio is 900 to 1 ounce. What does that mean? Does that mean, I can look it up, but it doesn't mean anything. The SDR floats. So it's 900 to 1, but what does that mean? Why is he giving you that information? Again, we talked about this last night. You get this cherry-picked data, and I don't know what significance was attached to it, and then people repeat it. But what does it mean? I'm not sure. As I say, it just doesn't matter. I'll look it up right now. Let me just go to my data set here. But I don't know why we need to know that it's 900 to 1. You could do a ratio with anything. Maybe you can fill in there why that's important. The world is chained. China's supporting this. What does that mean? China's supporting what? Well, what is China supporting? Is all this China's going to do this? China's going to do that? I don't know. All these things that for the last 5 years I heard, someone's going to do something. Some country's going to do something. And the underlying reason they tell you this is because it's going to be a game changer. And the price is going to rise because of whatever someone says something or some entity is going to do. What does it mean? If somebody can explain to me what China's supporting and what the SDR ratio has to do with gold and what the significance of it is, I'll listen. But if I just see random facts thrown out and then someone attaching significance to it, you might as well stand on your head and listen to Jimi Hendrix backwards at 78 speed and say you saw the gold price at 40,000. Don't repeat that. People think they'll start doing that. All right. No, the pulse of the dealers. From your research, like if sales are picking up, database DNA, or people aren't selling their coins back, the pulse of the dealers, as I mentioned, maybe you wrote this after I explained it, but as I mentioned, what they're doing is they're selling a decent amount of the backdated coins at lower premiums than the newer coins, which means the market is saturated and people are selling the old coins, and then people are picking up the older coins at a discount, which means if they were selling out of those, people would be buying the newer dated issuances, and they're not. That's why they don't need. In other words, right now what's happening is the secondary market is probably stronger than the primary market, meaning the new gold coming on market, there isn't a demand for it in the form of American Gold Eagles, American Silver Eagles. They're probably selling more in the secondary market, which means that the market is not tight at all. When the market is tight, the mints are running 24/7 trying to keep up because the secondary market isn't there. People aren't selling, and all they're doing is buying, and they can't keep up with production. That's the exact opposite of what's happening right now. That's what was happening in 2015. That's why the Canadian Mint and the U.S. Mint ran out of planchets, and that's why the Perth Mint, who actually makes planchets themselves, was able to sell 3.5 million Australian kangaroos, silver kangaroos, in September because the U.S. Mint just couldn't keep up because they don't make the planchets. The silver Sunshine Mint and other providers, third-party providers, couldn't keep up. And that year was the big year, 2015. I suspect most to buy physical gold and silver are holders. Do you know? Well, I don't know what people do, but if I can infer that if the dealers are selling backdated coins, it's not from their inventory. It's from people having sold those coins to them so that they now have them for resale. So I would suspect, I don't know, I couldn't tell you how many hold, how many don't. It's just hard to tell, but clearly there are people selling, and that's where the dealers are getting inventory to sell the backdated coins. SD Bullion is by far the fastest delivered at the lowest price across the board. Okay, well, that's good intel for people to know. Gusta Broken. Once as a joke, I engraved plates for $3 bills and advertising for one of the banks here just for fun. Awesome. Yeah, you know, you still have to get some pictures over to us so that I can post them of your engraving because you've piqued our interest and we'd like to see just something nice. It's all funny money anyway. All right. Pad, just because you don't know what it means doesn't mean it's meaningless. That is correct. That is correct. However, the flip side to that is just because there's some information out there doesn't mean it has any meaning. I want to know what the meaning is. No, it doesn't mean I haven't looked it up. I want to know what the significance is of a SDR to gold. There's always a ratio. There's a ratio for everything. What does it mean? And I know a lot of these websites, they like to tell you there's something out there, and people repeat it as if res ipsa loquitur, meaning the thing stands for itself. It doesn't. It's just a statement. Okay, so the SDR, here, I have it right here in front of me. SDR, right now, the price of an SDR to gold is 900. And all through 2018, it's been between 925 and 900. In 2017, it basically tracks, it's nothing. The SDR is based on a basket of currencies. So the price of gold versus a currency will always change. Also, the price of the SDR, the special drawing rights, will also, so for example, I'll tell you what it is. The special drawing right is made up of British pounds, US dollars, Japanese yen, and Chinese RMB. And whenever you see what the price versus gold is in dollars, there's also a price versus gold in euros. There's also a price versus gold in Japanese yen. And there's a price versus gold in the Chinese RMB. So if you put together those currencies and you average them according to their weights, there's always going to be a price of gold versus the SDR. And I have that chart in front of me, and it's not much different than the price versus gold in dollars. So I don't know what the point is. That there is an SDR. The SDR is based on a basket of currencies. That fluctuates against other currencies, and of course it fluctuates against gold. I can look it up against silver. It doesn't mean anything. It just means the SDR fluctuates against gold, just like every currency fluctuates against gold, except the special drawing rights are just a basket of currencies. So I don't know what the significance is. All right. Source of the info. So the info is there. What does it mean? I don't know what it means. I can give you a lot of statistics. I could tell you what the price of gold is against the Indian rupee. And the Indians are on board with it. But what does that mean? I can give you the price of gold versus the Mexican peso. See, a lot of, they present it. I'm not saying he did. I haven't even seen it. But I know that a lot of times people just present information and it's like, yeah, see, there it is. It's right there. And then people repeat it as if it has some type of special significance. What is the significance? Why bring that the SDR price in gold is 900 to 1 right now? It's been 900 to 1 pretty much all year. It's fallen a bit because the price of gold is I just don't get what the significance is. All right, Daily Economist. All right, Daily Economist with Ken Short. Yeah, good podcast. Okay. Nothing fancy, straightforward, informative delivery. I can't figure out why you guys insist on putting out videos each day if you have few viewers. What is your motive? Are you doing a service for some other entity? What's the deal? What's the deal? I was talking to Carl about this today. I wanted to find out. This is not my source of income. I wanted to find out why all these stories about this is going to happen, that's going to happen, game over, game changer, why it didn't happen. So I figured I had a blog. I might as well do the research. I enjoy doing it, and I enjoy presenting it. And I'm not looking. If I wanted to make money off the site, I could make up stories. I can add significance to stuff that's insignificant. I see it. There's plenty more sites out there that have more viewers. They always got an angle, always telling you something to set the skyrocket. I'm doing this mostly for my own benefit. Keeps me sharp, keeps me understanding what's going on. And frankly, I kind of enjoy now looking at all this information and seeing what's significant and what isn't. And for the most part, most of the information, turns out, is insignificant. And that's why I enjoy doing it. I enjoy knowing what's going on, not listening to somebody tell me what's going on when what they're telling me is going on is insignificant and it's just a way of getting clicks or visitors or subscribers or trying to sell precious metals. I'm not doing that. All right. I can't give you... I'll go look at it, Pat. I'm not cutting on you. I can go look at it, but I've read these sites before. There's always some special angle, and I know what it is. When you have to produce content every day, you have to come up with something, so you come up with something. And you look at the SDRs. People haven't looked at SDRs for a while. It's meaningless. I'm sure it is. It doesn't mean anything. I'm sure the price tomorrow isn't going to go skyrocketing because someone wrote an article about SDRs and a 900 to 1 ratio. It doesn't mean anything. Hey, Pat, lighten up. If you don't like this, no one's giving anyone a hard time here, Gus. It's just everyone knows my point of view is I'm skeptical of everything, and that doesn't strike me as anything. But I do know for most people, they see something and they're like, oh, I didn't know that. And it must be, if they didn't know something, in their minds it must be significant because somebody who knows something is telling them something. Wouldn't it tell you if gold is gaining value again versus all the major currencies? Yes, database DNA, but think of just, okay, let's think this through. All the SDR is a basket of currencies. You already know what gold is doing against the dollar. That's the biggest, I think it's 40% of the SDR composition, okay? So if gold is rising against the dollar, most likely it's rising against the SDR basket, provided that the dollar isn't falling against the other currencies in the SDR basket. So it doesn't tell you anything. There's no magic in it. All the SDR is just a basket of currencies. It's not even backed by those currencies. It's just used as a benchmark against the dollar is 41%. The euro is 31%. The yuan is 8%. The yen is 8%. And the pound is 11%. That's it. And they take that basket, they create what's called an SDR tracking price. That's not what they call it, but that's what it does. And you can use that against any asset. You can do an SDR price versus gold versus silver versus copper versus anything. It doesn't mean anything. Any more than if you were tracking gold in Swedish kroner or you were tracking gold in Russian rubles. I don't know. It's not significant. All right. Pad, move along. No. I like Poppy stuff. I like Pad. He's bringing something to my attention, and we're examining its significance. And he's right to point out to me if I haven't seen the article, I shouldn't be commenting on it. I'm just saying that I do know what the SDR is. I know how it's composed, and I know that the price versus the SDR, you wouldn't figure anything out that way because you'd already know the price of gold versus the euro and the other currencies that are in the SDR. So it's not going to give you any special insight because there's nothing in the SDR that you don't already know. So for example, the yuan is part of the SDR and the dollar is rising against the yuan now faster than it is against the dollar because the yuan is going down. But since the yuan is part of the SDR, that's going to impact how the SDR price is versus gold, and it's going to go up a little more because it has the yuan in it, which is devaluing versus gold. All right. You do not sound like you're enjoying it all this yet. No, I am enjoying it. It's not kind of sick at all. I'm enjoying it. It's part of what I call critical analysis. I really do enjoy it. I enjoy looking at something, breaking it down. What I don't enjoy is hype, and that's what I'm here for. That's what I enjoy, is breaking down stuff. All right. Right, Lewis. Even biologically, 90% of the brain neuron activity is devoted to inhibition of extraneous stimuli. Maddie D, the ATBs are, yes, they are. The ATBs are very nice. That's one of the few coins that the U.S. Mint actually makes. It's 5 ounce, looks like a quarter. All right. Database DNA. I enjoy the podcast too. Very refreshing from the constant pumper BS. This is like a free class in critical thinking. We're all benefiting here. Problem is when the show gets too popular. I don't think it will, because most people don't want to hear what they don't want to hear. They want to believe the stories they've been told. They also want to believe that they know something that someone else doesn't, that they heard, oh, there's a mine that's closed down in secondary Chile and it means silver shortage, and no one knows this. Yeah, because it doesn't matter. But again, you're not learning. Everything I give you is all public information. I present it, and I present it in context. That's boring for most people. Most people want to hear there's some conspiracy and there's 48,327 sealed indictments and they're coming down. They don't know that. Well, they say they do a QAnon. I don't do that. All right, you only look surface deep. I've listened to you from the beginning. This is why you have a few followers. I value your viewpoint only to a point. Back at you, same thing. I only value your view only to a point. I only value anyone's view only to a point, including my own. So everyone's even. Quantity over quantity. Quality over quantity. Cash flow. Most under 20K since 2015. Most under 20K since 2015. Cash flow. What does that mean? All right. Is it possible for all currencies in the SDR to go down at the same time, everyone inflating at the same time, exporting inflation to the EMs? Now, I've had that question about the dollar index. I think it was you on Twitter. You can devalue all of the currencies. The fiat currencies can all be devalued against gold. That's for sure. But then the fiat currency, when the dollar index goes up, the dollar index is going up, meaning the dollar is more valued versus the other currencies. So it's possible that the 5 currencies that are in the SDR can go down and other currencies around the world can go up, but that's unlikely because the 2 strongest currencies in the world are the US dollar and the euro, and then the yen and the pound. The Chinese RMB is not really a strong currency. It's always subject to being devalued, but it's included in the special drawing rights because it is the second largest economy. That's how they got in. But it is not held. It's only 1.4% of international reserves. So central banks don't hold yuan, but it's in the SDR, and it makes sense in a way, even though it's not held widely or used widely. It makes sense for the SDR to be, for the Chinese yuan to be in there because it's reflective of the second largest economy, which itself is volatile. So it's going to impact the world's currencies, whatever China does, even though people don't hold it. It's reflective of that economy. So all the currencies can go down, but remember, if they all go down relative to each other. That's the only way they go down, or relative to gold. Matty D probably reflects the over decline in silver sales. Probably we're picking up some of the 2018 states. I've seen some of them go for 200. Yeah, those coins I've seen. I have seen they went up a lot in premiums, especially I think it was the Hawaiian state park with the volcano on it. And somebody told me an interesting story about that. And first of all, they don't make many of them. They only make, at the most I think has ever been made, I think it's 105 or 125,000 of those coins. Most of them have mintages in the 20, 30, 40,000 range. But I think that one, they only made 20,000 of. But somebody told me there was a volcano, I don't know what you call it, but it was a Hawaiian organization that they just liked that. don't know if it's a hobbyist, but whatever it is, they're into the volcano. And so they bought a bunch of those. They bought like most of them. And that's what drove the price up. And I think at one point they were like selling for $350, $400. There is a premium on those, that's for sure. They're 5 ounces of silver, and they generally don't make that many of them. But the other thing is, it's just like anything that they don't make a lot of, this most because they're not really collected that much. The same with the silver shield is a very clever concept because Chris makes a small number of them, and then there's a larger number that want them. He doesn't have to have like 50,000 people wanting them. If he only makes like 30 and he has 500 people that are interested in those coins, there's going to be a perfect market for supply demand in that there's always going to be people that want to buy the coins. Now, when a U.S. mint product only makes 30,000, you have to wonder how many people want them. All right. Probably okay. Poppy stuff. Lucy Louie did an interesting video on the housing bubble and the high-end real estate New York City. I saw something. I didn't see his. I saw somebody mention it. I saw that real estate in New York City is now not as tight as it was, and that it's easier to get an apartment now. It has to come a limit to how much they can boost real estate properties. In fact, I discussed that yesterday. I was on the X22 report with Dave. We were talking about how real estate can only be pushed up so high because in order to buy it, people have to have an income-debt ratio that can sustain buying it, or they just have to have so much cash they can buy it. But it's easier to boost the stock market because you can boost the stock market price to wherever you want. All right. Well, unless there's any other questions or comments, but everyone's welcome to discuss. And sorry if people don't like when I criticize just random statistics. If you have a statistic and you want to raise it. But also tell me what the significance of that statistic. A lot of times they just get presented and it's like, see? It's like, I see it. Tell me why it matters. All right. Thank you very much for those of you who joined me tonight and those of you who are listening now after this has been uploaded. And please join me every night at this time at 8 o'clock. Thank you very much, everybody. Here we go.